This is the stats probability unit review page. This is question number 2. From the tables in question 1, find the relative frequency fractions. So all we're being asked for is to give fractions and determine whether the answer is a joint, marginal, or conditional relative frequency. Let's take a look at these. Question number the first box, sorry. A person lives in Ontario, and here's our key word, and uses Sprint. When you see the word and connecting two categories, that means it must be a joint relative frequency. It's going to be a joint relative frequency. The other thing that tells you it's joint is if you look at the table, that number is coming not from the totals row or the total column. It's coming from the data inside of the table. In this case, Ontario and uses Sprint. So here is, let me scroll over to this. Here is Ontario. Here are the people who are from Ontario and use Sprint. That's 94. So our fraction is going to be 94 over the entire number of participants in the survey. 94 divided by 587. Let's take a look at the next one. A student is in the 6th grade. Now in this case we only have one category being mentioned, 6th grade. That automatically makes this a marginal relative frequency, because if you look at the table for students, a student in the 6th grade, that's going to come from the total column. We have 91 students in the 6th grade, so 91 out of 254. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. A person uses AT&T, so uses AT&T assuming they live in Upland. Assuming is our key word that tips us off that it is conditional probability, which means we only look at the total of a specific column and row. Now we're assuming they live in Upland, and that means our denominator is going to be the number of people who live in Upland. Looks like we've got Upland, the number of people. There are 208 people who live in Upland. And of those people, how many use AT&T? So here's Upland, here is AT&T, 91 out of 208. Alright, let's go to the next section. Hope this is making sense to you. Alright, a student is in the 8th grade assuming they prefer math. So here we go. Our categories are 8th grade and math, and we have the word assuming, so we know it must be conditional probability. So math is the one we are assuming, so that's the total we want in the denominator. And it looks like the total math people are 66. 66 people preferred math in our entire survey. And of those, how many are in the 8th grade? We've got 32 in the 8th grade. So 32 out of 66. Next one, a person uses Verizon. Well, we only have one category mentioned, Verizon. That means it must be marginal. And if we look at the table, we look at the number of people who use Verizon. There is 179 out of 587. 179 divided by 587. And the last one, a student likes science and is in the 7th grade. So they like science and is in the 7th grade, and means we are putting two categories together, and that means it must be a joint probability. We know joint probability is out of the total number of people in the survey, which is 254. And let's see how many of them like science and are in the 7th grade. So here's our like science. Here's in the 7th grade. There's our joint probability of science in 7th grade, which is 29. So 29 students out of a total of 254. So there is our table of joint, marginal, and conditional relative frequencies.